As the King's coronation moves ever nearer here on May the 6th in the United Kingdom, all eyes, of course, are upon the royal command. Who could possibly be called upon to entertain His Majesty the King? I mean, when you think about it in the old days, it's like one of those movies, isn't it, with Danny Kaye, King Arthur and the court jester and all that sort of stuff. It would have been a totally different thing. Now, of course, people today are very difficult, aren't they, in the sense of that, well, I'm in the middle of a tour. Apparently the Spice Girls are too busy. I mean, who would have thought? And then, of course, Adele, and her talents are staying over in Las Vegas. Probably a relief, because when you think about it, how long would it take for her show to get ready? Of course, the stalwarts, as we mentioned before, the likes of Sir Tom Jones, Dame Shirley Bassey, they are always firm favourites within royal circles. Now, as you often know here on the show, we like to discuss people who we truly like, and particularly who we think are supremely talented. Now, a couple of days ago, a young lady got in touch and said, what about Susan Boylan, as we discussed previously? Yeah, good idea, nice ambassador for Scotland too. And more importantly, a lady who came from nowhere to make a success of her life. Beautiful, clear bell-like voice, of course, and overcome many hurdles in her life to achieve finally that level of success. It's always nice, that, isn't it? But I wanted to ask you today, what do you think to this particular gentleman? As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning, Neil Sean here. Nice to see you. Hope you're all keeping well. We're talking about a man who took us to Amarillo. And then, of course, we were looking for avenues and alleyways. We couldn't find them, could we? And then there were so many other hits, really. We're talking about the brilliant, the supremely talented Tony Christie. Why is he not a sir? Yes. Now, I've interviewed Tony Christie many times. Wonderful gentleman. A little bit shy of his own talent. Should raise the old baton a little bit more. But somebody suggested that he would make a very good inclusion to entertain the crowds at the coronation of King Charles III. And I sort of thought that is a great idea. Can you imagine a rousing rendition of Is This the Way to Amarillo? Maybe change it, Is This the Way to Windsor? You never know. That might work, wouldn't it? But, it's interesting because it does appear that the, shall we say, the more seasoned stalwarts get overlooked in the view of, let's get young people involved. Nothing wrong with that. And obviously in 100 years' time, people might look back at the Platinum Jubilee and think, who were these people? I don't think that could be said, could it, of Tony Christie? As I say, he's enjoyed a phenomenal career, very popular over in Europe and Germany too, came back in 2006, literally, after it was picked up for a charity record, and gone on to have a phenomenal, successful revitalization of his career. Now, as I say, I've interviewed Tony many times, and the interesting thing about Tony is this. He's very humble, he's got a brilliant voice, and a lot of people always say, well, he was never as big as Tom Jones. Let's not forget, Tom had a bit of a handle ahead, because also, when you think about it, Tom was about 7 years ahead in success. Tony came around about the early 1970s, having served his apprenticeship on the working men's clubs in the north of England and across the United Kingdom. But as ever, I throw it back open to you. Would you like to see the king of 70s cool taking us all the way back to Amarillo in front of His Majesty the King on May the 7th at Windsor Castle in a spectacular concert? Let me know. And obviously, seriously, we will let the powers that be over in Windsor think this is a good idea, or maybe not. And as ever, who else would you like to see included in that particular concert? As ever, when I know more, you'll know more.